I just got back from watching the second Nun movie, and I must tell you, it is friggin' amazing. Like, okay, first things first, if you don't want spoilers, please don't watch this because I'm going to completely spoil the movie for you. Second thing, I understand the movie has been out for more than 48 hours, which means there are lots of reviews on the internet and they are very polarized reviews. People are saying that the first half is extremely boring and that the jump scares are not adequate. Please keep in mind that the movie is separately screened first for critiques. So they watch it before the general audience does and they start writing these posh comments. Second thing, critics are not always experts. These days, even influencers who post fashion shit are called to movie screenings. So I'm not going to count their opinion because I'm not sure there are people who have been invested in the Conjuring universe, unlike me. I live for the Conjuring universe and James Wan. And let's get into the movie review. If you go to watch this movie hoping that they would explain the origins of the nun, you will be disappointed they're not doing that, which means that all we understand about the nun is just as much that they disclosed in the first Nun movie. We know that there's a duke in Romania who was praying to Christ for years. Christ didn't answer, so he changed tactics and started worshipping Satan instead. Satan thankfully has a quicker turnaround time, which means Satan responds immediately and sends one of his demons to him. Not just any demon, the very president of hell itself. And in doing so, the castle in which the Duke was living ends up having this portal through which the demon comes out. Now, Catholic Church gets wind of this demonic activity, Satan worship sort of thing, and they dispatch their Templar Knights to shut this down. Catholic Church isn't as peaceful as it is now. Formerly, they were known to resort to violence, murder, and all kinds of nonsense to put down any form of dissent. So what happens is that they capture the Duke, we don't know what happens to him, and they take over this castle, turn it into an abbey for two reasons. One, since a portal had been opened there, it is necessary that it be watched by people of cloth, holy people of cloth. So what they do is they sent a bunch of nuns who reside there and pray 24/7. There's never a single moment in that church, okay, not church, abbey, where prayers or Bible reading stops. So that was their approach to keep the demon contained, and we know how it went. James Wan has made it plenty clear that conventional prayer techniques, sacred items, will not work against Valak. That is a nun's habit-wearing, cross-sporting demon. You are not going to sorry. You are not going to banish it by showing it the cross or sprinkling holy water or reading Bible verses. And for that, I applaud him. He took the holiest of Catholic women and turned it into a goddamn nightmare. Like, next time you see a nun, I've seen this with lots of people. You see a nun now, you're not thinking, oh, holy woman. You're like, oh, Malak. See, that's what he did. It takes skill. Now, about the reviews, they say that the first half is boring because it has minimal jump scares. They are absolutely correct. The first half is merely a status update on where we stand 4 years after Valak has presumably been banished by the trio of Father Burke, Sister Irene, and their local tour guide, Frenchie, whose real name is Maurice. Now, last time they used the most holiest relic ever, which is a vial containing the blood of Jesus Christ, and they used that on Valak to banish it back to hell. Or so they thought. Unbeknownst to them, Father Burke, Sister Irene, and Maurice all leave the abbey thinking that Valak's been put to rest and is never coming back. But Valak has latched on to Maurice, and Maurice doesn't know it. Sister Irene doesn't know it. Father Burke doesn't know it. They've all gone their separate ways, and the movie begins with us seeing things through the perspective of the Catholic Church. So, in their perspective, a matter that's once considered closed, like the abbey's hauntings, are done. But what happens is the hauntings are somehow spreading out, starting from Romania, moving westward through Europe. And the church is like, yo, what the fudge is happening? We put this shit to rest. Now, why is it spreading? Throughout its trail, in the westward trail, places of worship, cathedrals, chapels, and churches are seeing women and men of cloth being murdered inside them, biblical murderings, immolations, hung on the cross, stabbed, hung with like the rosaries around the neck, all kinds of brutal, violent killings. inside the church. Now, two things are happening. Because of this, the Catholics are like, oh shit, Valak's back. Second, people are starting to question their faith, which means all of these churches are conducting masses and people are not turning up because their faith has been shaken. And if there's no faith, the Catholic Church cannot sustain. And they're like panicking now, and people are like, oh no, they're not believing in us, we have to do some shit. So they start calling back Father Burke and Sister Irene to step in once again and save this. Unfortunately, Father Burke has passed away since then due to cholera. This is post-World War time. Healthcare was shit. So he died from cholera, which means we are now left with Sister Irene, who is the only surviving person who has faced Valak, defeated her, and come out to tell the tale. Sister Irene is called in once again, and Sister Irene is like, hell no, I'm not doing this shit. And then Catholics are like, the Vatican's like, no, ma'am, you have to do it because otherwise priests are dying, people are dying. Faith is being questioned. If people don't come to church, how are we going to make money and all that shit? Sister Irene agrees. Now, this is the first half of the movie. It is giving us a status update and setting us the context of why all of this shit has been happening and how ultimately Sister Irene gets involved in it once again. Now, second half starts with Sister Irene getting to the place where the hauntings are at its peak. This place is now a boarding school for girls, but it was formerly a monastery in which there is something associated with Saint Lucy, the patron saint of the blind. If you have time, please go read up about her before you go watch the movie, because her story has like a pivotal role in this. Okay, so she gets to the monastery, and there even Maurice doesn't know that the Valak shit is inside of him. He's living around, he's a handyman, he's helping with carpentry and wiring and plumbing and shit like that, and he's just living his life. But killings have been happening around him. Now, she gets there, she straight away tells Maurice to his face that it's inside of you. And then from there, it all goes to absolute hell. The jump scares, my God, it is unlike anything I've seen. Like, the jump scare's coming, but it's gonna come at you in the most unexpected way. I'll give you an example. So like I said, this is happening inside of a girls' boarding school, and inside of that, there is a chapel where the murders are happening. 3 people have already been murdered there. And when Sister Irene comes in and tells them that this dude is the one inside whom Valak resides, they're like, let's tie him up. So they go ahead and tie him up. And then they're going around looking for something which I'm not going to tell you, but it's got something to do with Saint Lucy, the one that I mentioned, the blind lady. Yeah, that one. As they are looking about, one of these girls decides to go check on the person who has been bound. She goes there, and as expected, he has disappeared. Now, this is a standard cue that the jump scares are about to commence. So she's like, oh, the guy has escaped. Now let me go find him. And everyone knows that this is the point where the jump scare will happen. Any moment now, Valak's gonna come out or stand in the corner, glare at you, dribble blood. Nothing happens. Here's what happens instead. Inside this chapel is the altar, and behind the altar, you know how all of these European churches have stained glass art which looks really beautiful when the sun rays go through it? Yeah, so behind the altar there's this giant glass painting where Satan is depicted in his favorite animal form, which is a black goat with like giant horns. This isn't from the Conjuring universe, this is a separate story. For some strange reason, Satan's most preferred animal form is a black ram. The painting shows a goat and people reading the Bible out to him, hopefully to cast it out. So this girl standing there going around with a torch looking for Maurice, who has escaped his bondage. And as she turns around, the goat from the painting disappears. People were like, what the fudge? No scary music, no loud screams. You're just looking and the goat disappears from the painting. And we're like, huh? What? In the very next instant, you see Maurice walking off, like in full anger, like, all that scary pale face and everything. And Sister Irene is chasing behind him, full Catholic battle mode. She's holding out the rosary and telling him, like, I banish you, demon, stand there. And then the demon stops, turns around, karate kicks her ass out the window. Yeah, he just turns around, air roundhouses her, and she just hits the window and then falls down. She's done. She's out cold. She has fainted. So now there's nobody there to fight the shit person who was walking around looking for something, and all the girls in the boarding school are running amok. Also, there are lots of Conjuring movies involving children, even Annabelle 2. Okay, that's not Conjuring universe, but in the correct sense. But yes, it's also part of this. It's an extension of Conjuring universe, you could say. There are lots of children. There are orphanages and shit like that, but none of them show children being grievously injured. This one isn't treating kids kindly that way. There's a kid that's stabbed right through, and in a very disturbing way, you could say. So yeah, I loved this movie. The second half in particular, my god, the goat disappearing was the epitome of scare, because everyone expected a scare. It's not what we got. The next moment, the Catholic woman tries to stop the demon, she fails, and then there's children running in every direction. There is a teacher who's trying to like keep her shit together while also trying to protect the children. She's failing. And remember the goat that disappears? It comes back, not as a painting, but as an actual goat. And there's a scene in a staircase where the goat appears. Best 20 seconds of my life. I forgot to breathe. I straight up held my breath. I think I even stopped my heart from beating because it was that good. Oh, you really should watch this movie. First half will be boring. It's explaining the story. It's explaining who Saint Lucy is. We also get glimpses about Sister Irene's childhood and why she is able to perform the miracles that she is performing. And also a sort of glimpse about why Valak does the things that she does and why she is on the lookout for a certain object. But yeah, on the whole, I would give this movie an absolute 8 out of 10. I'm reducing 2 for poor acting from Sister Irene and the general dragging. This could have been structured a lot better. They could have revealed the relic first and then went on to say this. It would have made it a lot more interesting. But they chose to go with the first hook, which is the Catholic Church wondering why the hauntings starting from Romania are exclusively moving westward through Europe. Yeah, there's a story for that as well. But yeah, you should watch this movie. It was friggin' brilliant. Last 20 minutes, my goodness, I held my damn breath. Good job, James Wan.